In every family, there's a story. Ours began with a photograph on the mantelpiece and an empty chair at the dinner table. They belonged to my uncle, a man I only knew through faded pictures and whispered memories. Family is more than just blood. They say it's shared memories, laughter, and a love that's supposed to last forever. But for us, distance and time had stretched our bond so thin, it felt like it might snap. I grew up hearing stories of him. He was the adventurous one, the one who promised to see the world and send back postcards from every corner. The last time anyone saw him was 20 years ago, on a gray morning at the train station. My mother remembers his smile, a little sad around the edges. My grandfather remembers his firm handshake, a promise to return. But the postcards stopped coming, the calls grew silent, and the years piled up like fallen leaves. For 2 decades, we remembered him, we missed him, and we wondered why he never came back. His absence became a quiet ache in the heart of our family, a question mark hanging over every holiday and celebration. We learned to live with the silence, but we never stopped hoping the door would one day open. Then one day, it did. It was a Tuesday, an ordinary afternoon. The sun was streaming through the window, and the house was filled with the usual sounds of life. Suddenly, there he was, standing in the doorway, framed by the afternoon light. He was older, of course. Time had etched new lines on his face and silvered his hair. He carried a small, worn-out bag and stories no one had ever heard. The room fell silent. My mother dropped the dish she was holding. My grandfather, who had been dozing in his armchair, sat bolt upright. The younger kids, my cousins, just stared, their eyes wide with curiosity. Who was this man who looked so much like the faded photograph on the mantelpiece? The same man we had lost, but now, he stood in front of us, a stranger and a relative all at once. His eyes, though tired, held the same spark my mother always talked about. He looked from face to face, searching for recognition, for a sign of welcome. The air was thick with unspoken questions, with 20 years of silence. It was a moment suspended in time, where joy and shock and a little bit of fear all collided. Slowly, my grandfather rose from his chair and walked towards him. He didn't speak, he just reached out and placed a hand on my uncle's shoulder. That simple touch broke the spell. Tears welled up in my mother's eyes as she whispered his name. The reunion we had dreamed of for so long was finally happening, but it wasn't the joyful celebration we had imagined. It was quiet, hesitant, and heavy with the weight of everything left unsaid. Later that evening, as we all sat together, the story began to unfold. Those years away had not been idle. The secrets, the struggles, and the sacrifices lay behind every wrinkle, every word. He spoke of his early years abroad, filled with ambition and hope. He'd found work, fallen in love, and even started a family of his own. He showed us a worn photograph of a smiling woman and a little girl, but his voice cracked as he told us how illness had taken them both from him, leaving him alone in a foreign land with nothing but grief. He had wanted to come home then, he said. He had packed his bags a dozen times. But shame and a deep sense of failure held him back. He couldn't bear to return with nothing but a broken heart, so he drifted, taking odd jobs, barely getting by, his silence a wall he built around himself to keep the pain at bay. He was afraid to burden us with his sorrow, afraid that the successful son and brother who had left would be a disappointment. What we thought was abandonment was his way of protecting us. What we saw as his choice to stay away was actually his survival. The distance he kept wasn't out of a lack of love, but because his love was so great, he didn't want it to be a source of pain for us. As he spoke, the anger and resentment that had simmered in our family for years began to dissolve, replaced by a profound sadness and empathy. We saw not a man who had left us, but a man who had lost everything. My mother moved to sit beside him, taking his hand in hers. My grandfather, who had been so stoic, wiped a tear from his eye. In that moment, he was no longer a stranger. He was our uncle, our brother, our son, who had finally found his way back from a long and lonely journey. In the days that followed, our home began to feel complete again. Forgiveness isn't a single moment, it's a process, a quiet choice made every day. It was in the way my mother made him his favorite breakfast. It was in the way my grandfather would sit with him on the porch, not always talking, just being together. And it was in the way the children, who had at first been shy, now climbed into his lap to hear stories of a world they'd only seen in books. There were apologies, whispered late at night. Apologies for his silence, and apologies from us for our judgment. We learned that true family isn't about keeping score or holding onto grudges. It's about making room for imperfection, for pain, and for healing. He was rebuilding his life, and in doing so, he was helping us rebuild our family. The empty chair was finally filled, and the hole in our hearts began to mend. Love, we discovered, has a remarkable way of rebuilding what time has tried to destroy. It doesn't erase the past, but it can light up the future. Watching him teach my little cousin how to skip stones across the pond, I realized that family is about second chances. It's about opening the door, no matter how long it's been closed, and welcoming someone home. His return taught us that forgiveness is the bridge that can connect even the widest gaps, and that love, in its purest form, always finds its way back. Thanks for watching our story unfold. If it resonated with you, please give this video a like and subscribe for more content that explores the power of human connection. We'll see you in the next one.